Good morning. I was described as the client's calculator in your magazine, which I thought was exceptionally funny. I'm here today, and on the slide there is a Twitter account, which is my Twitter account. If you want to ask me any questions from this talk or comment on it in English, please do, and I will try to answer as much of it as possible after the talk. As well, everything is already online, both the slides and the manuscript, and I'll show you the links at the end, so I hope that's good enough. Okay, so my argument is that there is a gap, that we are constantly looking at innovation and evolution as something happening straight in front of us, that we are moving linearly through time and technologies, giving the impression that evolution is to start using new things and stop using old things. Because that's what we're saying, right? TV is dead. We're going to stop using TV. But things never die. I think the only technology that ever has died is the old accounting system of the old Aztecs. Everything else is still very much alive. So technology doesn't disappear. This is not the case. In fact, saying that technology disappears goes against the very nature of what technology really is. What is happening is that we are expanding, that the future is, in fact, outside where we are today. We are getting more and more and more options. And my point is that in order to see these options, we need a much richer language when we talk about digital than how we are framing our conversations and our actions today as digital marketers. So this is where my story begins. It begins with the introduction of the internet. In the beginning, everything was the same. So there was no difference. People were consuming new media at the same type of way they were consuming old media, and all marketing, publishing, and advertising models were working as we anticipated and expected. People were picking up newspapers, reading newspapers for 30 minutes every day. People were going online for 40 minutes each day and reading newspapers online. There was no difference. But then everything changed. But it changed within the same technology. You see, the technology didn't change, but it allowed for us and our environments to change. And they quite rapidly did, starting some 5 to 6 years ago. So, to put it simply, technology didn't change, but technology kind of disappeared. So, you remember the days of the dial-up modem, when in order to get online, you had to use this box with this horrible sound and this waiting time for about 10 to 15 seconds. And after this sound, you had to pay for every minute you were online. Well, this was a huge barrier for people between them and the stuff they wanted to get in contact with. Now, just imagine yourself and your TV set today. So the TV is in the living room. How would you use the television if you had to phone it up every evening and then you had to pay for every minute you were watching TV? You would completely change the way you were watching TV. And this is what's happened online, and this is why it's completely changed the way we're using online. So what happened was broadband. And when we talk about broadband, we often talk about speed. So with broadband, we were able to see films online. But the thing with broadband wasn't mainly speed. Speed was kind of not that important in regards to broadband. What was important was that barriers disappeared. So you didn't have to phone up anything anymore. You just opened your laptop and you were online. And you didn't have to pay for every minute you were online. It was a fixed rate. So because the barriers disappeared, people started using computers and connecting online in a completely different way. And this changed even further with Wi-Fi, wireless networking, with laptops. Suddenly you could be anywhere in your house. There wasn't any cords anymore. You could be anywhere in your house going online. You even could be together with your friends. If you remember back in the good old 90s, if you wanted to go online, you usually had an envelope. On the back of the envelope was a list of things that you had to do. And you went up there into this old closet, which you put the computer in, and you sat there for 40 minutes, totally excluded from the rest of the world, and you did your 40 things for 40 minutes, and then you turned off the computer, and you came back into the world. Well, today, you just open your laptop. You're with your friends, you're studying, you're in the park, you're in the living room, you are connecting online together with everyone else. And this further changed with mobile. Now we're online every time, all the places in the world, and with handheld devices. Which means the technological barrier has disappeared. There isn't a barrier anymore between people and their stuff. And this is the reason why how we use technology has changed. Which means we are using, consuming, and subscribing to stuff in a completely new way. So, and some of this happens. For everything we did online 6 years ago represents only 20% of what we are doing today. Now, does that reflect in our strategies? Does that reflect in the way we are thinking and building advertising and marketing today? If 80% of what Europeans are doing online today didn't exist in their lives 6 years ago, how much of the things we're doing today didn't exist 6 years ago? It's not 80%. And this is just the beginning. The social web was nothing. Just think when not just computers, but everything we own becomes connected to the internet. When our washing machine won't start because it notices a red sock in amongst all the whites, which is already happening. Connecting objects to the world is already happening. So there's this American telecommunications provider which in June last year said, we are now connecting more stuff to the internet than people and machines. And in Norway, which has approximately the same as in Croatia, I believe, 4 to 5 million people, the biggest telecom operator is saying that in 2015, an estimate of 50 million SIM cards will be connected to the internet. So 10 times as many objects will be connected to the internet than people. This completely changes the way we think about what we're doing. With all this rapid change, we need to distinguish between the web and the net, where the web, to a large degree, is about online being an information distribution network of information, and where the net is about connected technologies. We too easily imagine that the future will be about more information, which creates horrendous scenarios for digital communication. Let me show you an example.
乗馬フィットネスマシンロデオボーイズーモンです新製品は前後左右の動きに上下振り運
Cup of tea. Fill kettle with 2 hot plus 1 PG tips tea bag in a clean mug. Good. Now get the skim milk from the refrigerator.
Okay, isn't this typical? Isn't everything we see online when people are designing and building the future of online, isn't it about more information? More? Isn't technology about removing stuff at the same time as it's about adding stuff? So this is a guy called Claude London, which is running the digital interactive department of the BBC. And he says that my father was a particle physicist at CERN and participated in inventing the web, but I wouldn't trust him near a media product because the web and the media product are two completely different things. The web is what we had, but now more and more things are coming into the net, so we have to stop looking behind us to see the new answers. And this is where I think the gap is, because if we try to understand the future by looking at the past, what we do is frame our conversations to a very limited set of opportunities. And we miss out on the stuff that's really happening. Because we will only see incremental improvements to what we already have and fail to see brand new ideas. Unfortunately, this linearity of going from the past and directly into the future is what we're doing. We try to follow a pattern into the future founded on where we are today. We add incremental improvements to our understanding of how technology changes our behavior, and we end up giving the stuff we do names like Web 2.0 and Advertising 2.0, which is a completely wrong mindset, in my opinion. But this does not reflect how technology evolves. Quite the opposite. Technology does not evolve in a straight line. It jumps, it changes course, it continuously combines with different technologies from different branches to create brand new opportunities.
IdejaX. Dobra ideja može promijeniti sve.